And do we have any ideas for an app that we want to build? Just a single model CRUD app.
Could it be books?
Yeah, sure. Cool. So let's actually get started. Oops. There we go. That is all I needed. Great. So our model for this one is going to be books, right? What attributes do you want to have?
Maybe genre, title, yeah, genre, author.
I want an integer somewhere. Yep. Cool. That works, right? All right. So at this point, what would you do next?
I'm afraid that I'm skipping some parts, but I would probably do like Rails G resource book, and then space title dot string, and just like go through the attributes like that.
You don't need to specify a string if it's or you don't need to specify if it's a string. So we can just do this. But yeah, spot on. Cool. And that's what I would do first too. Wait. I'm going to go back. We're doing this quick and dirty, so I don't want to have tests. So what I did there was I did Rails D resource rather than Rails G resource, and that deletes it. Cool. Take a look at our migrations. Awesome. We're going to migrate next. You can test that out.
So is string like always the default if you don't specify?
Mm-hmm. So at this point, the next step, right? We want to get to a point where we can test things as quickly as possible. So the next thing I do whenever I migrate is I'm just going to add some stuff to the database. Does that make sense? Cool. Go ahead. So that looked like it worked, right? We can add it to our seeds so that we can keep it for later. And we can also do book.last. Cool. Book.title, last.title. And we're good. We've got it set up. Yeah. Awesome. So at this point, I just like to start my server. And usually when I'm developing, I have like the console and the server up. And what do we feel like we should do next?
You should probably, I would probably first check resources and then start populating the controller.
As in check resources like for the routes or?
Yeah, sorry. Check the routes and then start checking out the controller.
Cool. Looks like we've got resources books. Usually at this point, I would lock some things down until I was about to build it. But I know we're about to do all 7. So I'm just keeping this open for now. But yeah, we can take a look at, we've got our models, we got books, got a controller. I'm also going to go ahead and just commit. Cool. So now that we're in our controller, what do we want to do?
Probably go through all 7 actions.
Yeah, I like to do things one at a time. That's like as the developer brain in me says, do whatever, like build whatever you could test first. So like a destroy action would be hard to test before we had like an index or a show, right? And so would a new action, because like eventually we'd get to create. So I'm going to start with an index action. Does that make sense? Cool. And then my next step would just be either like if I were really being meticulous, and this is my first time doing Rails in a while, I would probably just like let the errors be my guide a little bit. Be like books, and then like get this error. A lot of developers or a lot of like students feel like this is something that's tedious and slow to like test everything out. It takes like 5 seconds and so much peace of mind. I like so I know that this is hard to like do, but like I do encourage it. Like testing out everything, because now I know exactly that everything's going to work. And like eventually, like if you've developed long enough, you get to a point where you get like this nervous feeling in your stomach when you haven't tested something for a few lines of code, where you're just like, oh, something's gonna blow up when I run it. But yeah, so we've got this books controller. What do we want to do now? And we've got this index action and it shows up on the page.
This part I don't really understand why, but you set an instance variable at book equal to book.new.
I think you might be thinking of something else right here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
At books equal to book.all. The
Yeah.
new action is what I'm not under. You'll get to
Awesome.
that in a second.
I'm glad to hear that, because that's something I'd love to talk about. Cool. So we've got this at books, right? And we've done this a few times, right? Where we use this at books attribute to iterate through them and generate some books, right? Let's do a little UL first. One thing that I often see students doing is putting the UL inside of the iteration. The UL says, hey, there's going to be a list here. It doesn't say this is a list item. Whoops. I'm talking while I'm doing stuff. Really, you want each LI to be in the iteration. But like a lot of students do like a UL right here, and you're just creating a new list for each book, which doesn't really make sense and will confuse your HTML. But yeah, we can go ahead and say, we'll start with book.title, and let's put a little equal sign here. Does that make sense? Cool. Awesome. So we've got this. What do we want to do now?
You could probably do like before book dot title, you could do link to
Nice.
book dot title, and then do a comma after book dot title and do book.
I think that's a great idea. So just for the recording, because you're clearly, you know this trick, right? Book, if we just feed an instance of an active record relation, it will link to it will into a path helper. It will try to link to its show page. Yeah, you can test that out. Cool. And then we get to its show page, and it even says the action show cannot be found for books controller. Cool. Yeah, I think that was a great idea. That would be my next step too. Cool. Let's go ahead. Great. So now for the show, walk me through it.
Def show. You had like an awesome like before action thing up on one of these, and I never But
You want me to show you?
yeah.
Cool. So I will create some private methods right here, right? This is where I'll store any methods that I don't want to be routes. Oops. And here I'll just define like a set book. Yeah. And here I go at book equals book dot find params ID. Whoops. Yeah, so this part we're familiar with. Like, it's just we're doing it in a different place right here. And now here, I can go ahead and say before action, before we do any controller action, set book. But then we don't want to do it for index, right? Because we won't have a params ID. So I'm going to just say right now, only show. Now, if we put a buy bug right here to test it, refresh the page, and we'll have at book. Yeah.
Would you also do it for edit?
Yeah.
Or update?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think in general, edit, update, destroy are the 4 actions that you would do it for. We can add that right now. Usually I like to add that as I keep going so I don't like forget that I'm doing it. But yeah. Cool. So we now have this show action that actually works, right? It'll like set our book for us. So we can go ahead and do show .html.erb. Cool. And here we can go ahead and start doing a h1. Yeah. And we got this, right? Anything suspicious or new here? Or are we good? Cool. So we can add the rest of our stuff. Where's our schema? Oop. Great. Then we can go ahead and do a little. Cool. Great. Cool. What do we want to do now?
Show, probably be able to edit it.
Yeah. One thing that I might consider doing first is just because we now don't have a way to go from books 1 to books, right? Now might be the time when I start considering building a nav bar or something like that. Does that make sense? Just because I want to like give everything full functionality before I go to the next thing. So here, right? Do you want to work through this together? Do you feel comfortable enough like taking lead in it? Do you want me to?
I'd like to give it a shot.
Yes, go for it.
So on layouts, you create dash or underscore nav dot html dot erb.
Cool.
And then you do the nav tags, maybe.
Yeah. So these nav tags don't mean anything except they signal to other developers looking at your HTML that they, hey, this is a nav bar. But yeah.
Then you would probably want to do like link to I don't know, a string of books, comma at books.
So at books, right? Are we always going to have an instance variable at books on every request?
Oh no.
Mm-mm.
path or books underscore path.
Cool.
I don't know. I don't know this one.
So I mean, books underscore path. Oh wait, we don't have this yet. Books path is going to be right. I'm going to show you. You can go to localhost 3000 /rails/info/routes, and books path is the correct one right there. And since we know that the books path doesn't have any sort of IDs or anything like that, we know it doesn't take an argument, so we can just write books path. Cool. So what now to get it so that we can actually see that this works?
I think you would just reload the page. You would navigate to the one of any page and just reload it, right?
So we reload it, and you'll notice nothing's there yet. We got one more step.
Oh, you have to do. I'm sorry. In
You do not need to apologize.
in the application HTML ERB, you have to do render in the body above yield, probably. Do like render nav.
So one thing that we're missing, right? We're very close. We need to go in to, it's looking in like just views under books. Since we're in layouts, this is the one time where you'll have to write layouts/nav. Cool. So now if we go, oh, that's annoying.
You could put it at the bottom if you really want.
Yeah, no, we can just do a marquee. There we go. This is good development right here. Great. Cool. So at this point, we've got a show action. We can click on books. We can go back to the books action. So I'm going to commit. Cool. And now your next suggestion was an edit action, right? So how do we start?
You need to go into the controller. Oh, wait, hold on. Yeah, I would start with the controller. You go into the controller and do def edit.
Cool.
And then you need to, under the views, make a view for it under books.
Cool. Cool. How do I test out that this works?
We need a form of some kind, probably.
Sure.
Or a link to edit from the show page.
Mm-hmm. Do you know remember how to do that?
Oh, no.
Cool. Actually gonna do a button too, just for fun. Edit. And then we can go ahead and do at book.title. Yeah. So now we want to go to, if we go to our rails/info/routes, which one?
Edit book path.
Cool. Anything we want to add to that?
I think it's good, right?
So one interesting thing, right? The edit book path, what do we notice about it?
It needs an ID.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be parentheses at book.
Cool. Then I'm also, since I made a button to, which defaults to a post, I'm going to make it method get. Cool. Now here we are. Yeah. Cool. Now what?
In the edit, you need to start making a form.
Cool. So this is the part where you were asking me about, right? Kind of.
The part what I was asking about was the new. I think I don't understand why we need to do like, in this case, like at book equals book dot new. Like why are we passing at book when it doesn't mean anything yet into the new?
Cool. That's the question we can answer in a bit. Let's build out this form and then we can show what we're talking about here. Do you remember how to do it?
I'll take a stab at it. Form for at book. Do, is it F?
Yeah, this can be whatever you want, but yeah, some sort of variable that we can use as a form helper, right?
And then you're going through each of its attributes, like F dot title, F dot label, that, or F dot label, what you're doing. Yeah.
Right. We've got X dot text field title, right? Great. Does this feel right? You can also do that makes sense, right?
There's going to be a Y2K event for your
Yeah.
years published.
Eventually we can hard code this into like here, actually get current year Rails. Let's see. Nice. Cool. And this is unfair to like all of old literature, but you know what? At some point we're going to have to sacrifice. Like, does anyone really need to read Plato still? Cool. What else? I'm just saying that to annoy friends who aren't here. What else do we think we need in this form?
At the bottom, F dot submit.
Awesome. What are we noticing here?
It's just not lining up really great.
Oh yeah, the CSS is terrible. That's true. We can go ahead, add some more break tags, hope that solves problems. Or we can go ahead. Let's try this out in our. Let's go ahead and add input fields. Forget how to do this. Wow, I'm slow on this. So in this case, we could do like a margin bottom on M. That would look nice, right? With all of them. Let's go ahead and do that. So in our CSS, which is somewhere. It's in public folder, I think, right? Let's get rid of this. Or assets, style sheets. Cool. Input. Margin. Bottom 1M. Nice. Let's just go ahead and say text align center. Nice. This feels real. Cool. So now if we try this out, right? We can go ahead. Boom, I was right. All right. Well, that's not gonna be what I'm gonna edit then. But cool. Let's go ahead and in our controllers, what do we want to do next? I've just given something away.
Probably not. You need like a patch action.
What do we want to call that?
Def. I don't. Oh, def update.
Yep.
Sorry, I keep thinking put, but it's update.
Yeah, that's fair. So let's go ahead and sci-fi comedy. Cool. So now we have access to that book, right? Because we've got the set book method, right? We also have params. What do we want to do now?
You need strong params.
Mm-hmm.
So like a private method for book params.
Yep. Do you know how to do this?
Yeah. Params dot require parentheses book dot permit, and then you start doing the symbol for each of the attributes.
Want to explain what this does?
Yeah, so I think it default nests the params under books. So it's first looking up the books that it's nested in, and then it's only allowing those specific attributes to be passed on.
Yeah. First part says, hey, go into the part of the params that are nested under book, right? And it does that. And then the second part, when we chain this, right? It could be like, so remember, anything we can chain, we can like call separately, right? So required params, then dot permit. So the first part, notice, oops. Let's try this again so I can just show. This is params. This is params after you require a book. And then this is what it looks like after we permit things. So the first one is like, here's all of the information from our parameters, right? Everything's being dumped in here, including like this underscore method patch, authenticity token, a bunch of things that if you called on book.update would be very confusing, right? There are no setter methods for these. So instead we go ahead and we say, hey, only give me the params that are nested under book. And that's what this first part does. You'll notice that the params change, but this permitted false is still there. Then when we go ahead and say dot permit, and then these bad boys, it'll say permitted true. Cool. If we don't permit like one of these, you'll get an unpermitted parameter year published, and then it will get rid of that from the new params hash. That's another thing to show. But yeah, cool.
So in that way, they don't have to, like when they fill out the form, they can leave some of them blank and it'll just keep the old attributes.
Well, so in fact, they can't keep some of them blank because we autofill with the previous stuff, right? Like if they deleted this, it would actually update it to an empty string. You actually have to tell it to like reject blank inputs if you want to. But cool. So we've got this book params. What do we want to do next? I'm gonna, for the sake of continuing to be able to develop in the bybug. Usually book params is a method, but we can just make it into an argument so that we can continue to develop in the bybug.
You would go up to update and do it. Well, first, at book.update, and then parentheses book params.
Yeah. Remember, a book like update can take in a hash, right? If we do at book.update genre science fiction, right? Active record is cool with being past a hash. We can now look at book. And params behave a lot like a hash. Cool. So now what?
Redirect to at book.
Nice. Let's continue out of this real quick. We'll test this out once. Refresh. Cool. Sci-fi comedy. Update. And it works. Cool. Now what do we want to do?
You need, did we skip the new action?
Yeah.
Oh, we should probably do that.
Cool. So let's go ahead. And how do we want to start with this?
Def new. Or I would put it like, I usually put it right under index for some reason. I think I skipped that. And then I don't understand why, but below it at book equals book dot new.
Yeah, you've been mentioning this. We'll talk about this in a sec. Cool. Now what do we want to do?
You want to make a view for a new book and make a form. I think you can copy and paste the form you made from the update, kind of.
Yeah. In fact, I want to do one better. Is it cool if I make this a partial? Let's go ahead and in edit, we can go ahead and say first render form. Now let's go test that still works first. Nice, still works. Ooh, great. So now, right, in our new form, right, how do we go about doing the same thing here?
Couldn't you just do the squid render would it be, what'd you call it, form? You made a partial for it? Okay, yeah. Form in, yeah, string.
Cool. So now how do we check this?
Book/new.
So now this works, right? We can see that there's a form here. Ooh, nice. I have books from before. I guess I've done books before. The president is missing. Nice. Cool. Let's go ahead. Add a book, right? We can make this work first, and then we'll talk a little bit about your question. Sound good? I'm going to go ahead. Frankenstein or the modern Prometheus horror. Great. 18. It's a guess. Whoops. Oh, wait, that's not right. I hope I'm not wrong on all this. Cool. $1818. It's completely wrong. Cool. All right. Now what do we do?
Create could not be found. Oh, we have to make a create in the action def create action controller. Book dot create the book params. But should we make that? I'm thinking we should make it like at book equals book create.
Yeah, we can do at book or book, right?
Okay.
What do we want to do with book though?
We're going to redirect to book.
Generally, if you a good practice is to avoid an instance method if you can. I keep adding instances, or like avoid an instance method unless you want to, or an instance variable unless you want to use in a view. I keep adding them because eventually we will be putting instance variables in our create actions usually. But for now, if we try this again, this now works, right? You can go ahead, fix this. Just gonna go ahead, stick with up. Uh-oh. Right. I can't do this for this one because at book actually comes from it comes from set books. So like I don't want to like redo that without an instance variable. So just gonna be lazy. Use this. Cool. So now we have our edit action and we have, well, let's go ahead and let's create one more link to so that we can get like access this new book form. How do we go about doing that?
I think you would do like a, I forget, but I think you used like button 2 or something like that, and you could set it.
Cool. So you're thinking in our index action, we just have like a little button 2 right here.
In our index? No, wait. I was thinking like show would be a button to edit it, right?
Oh, in show we do have a button to edit already, right? We've done that.
Oh, okay. What's the question?
So I think we should make our form to add a new book available.
Yeah, that would be in the index. So
I mean, it's up to us. This is entirely designed, but yeah.
Yeah. It would be a button to the book/new. It would be like new _ book path. New book _
Nice.
path.
Oh, wait. And then because some button two, which defaults to a post method get. Cool. Nice. So now we can go about answering your question. To do that, I'm going to actually take this form. I'm going to not render by default. So we know that form 4, right, makes a bunch of assumptions based on what's passed into it. So right now, there's a couple of things we can notice, right? If we inspect the HTML, we're noticing it is giving us a class of new book, right? It's posting to the action/books. Method is post. So it knows to create a new book. If I didn't pass an instance of book, if I said, actually, I just want a form for a sample book, it's going to say, it's going to like not have the classes. It's going to post directly back to this page. And it's going to be able to, and it's going to like make a bunch of assumptions that are wrong, right? Or like it doesn't know what's going on. If you pass in an instance of a pre-existing book, right? Like we do in our edits page, right? Like this one is a pre-existing book. It knows, okay, cool. This is already saved in the database. It has an ID. So I'm going to make this an edit book action. That's a method of patch that posts to book/1 or patches to book/1. By passing an instance of a book that has not been saved yet, like an empty instance of a book, it knows what you want to do is build a new book. Now we could do book.new here, right? The issue is if we want to like use this form variable, right? It's actually helpful to have this @book be defined by our controller so that we can reuse it. There's a couple of other ways we could do this. I'm going to show you locals later where we can have this be a variable that's passed in from the view. As in like we can in the view say, hey, like render this form, but make @book equal to make book equal to book.new. But this way, this kind of emphasizes how useful a model view controller thing is. Since we're getting book from our controller, we don't have to worry about what it looks like in our view. We have really reusable code here. Is that kind of what you're curious about?
That answered it. Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah, because it can make the form distinguish between creating a new instance and editing an existing one.
Yep. Let's go ahead, go back to render form. Go books, add a new book. At this point, going to go to Pet Cemetery, sure. Or Stephen King. Sure. Cool. So we now have this working, right? Or are we still missing?
We need a destroy action, I know.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying we start by doing a def destroy.
Def destroy. Don't we do like at book dot destroy and then redirect to we need to find a way to go back to the index.
Mm-hmm.
Books underscore path.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. Now, how do we use this?
We probably need like another button in our show page.
Let's make it a little more gruesome. Now what?
Um, oh, I almost want to check the routes, but I feel like it's destroy underscore book underscore path. And
Okay,
then,
let's check the routes.
okay. Oh, it's just book path, but the method at the end is delete.
Yeah, we can even do at book method destroy, right?
Oh, destroy.
Or no, you're right. You might be right. It might be delete. We'll see. So we can go ahead and now remember this just brings us to the book path for that book, right? So let's go ahead and try this out. Cool. Now it's gone. All right. So at this point, we can even go ahead and commit. Great. So we've got full CRUD. Is there anything else we want to add to this? You always try to hit an API in 5 minutes.
I'm up for it if
Cool.
you got it.
Let's see, Google Books, right? That's an API. API, right? Okay. Um, looks like it requires some authentication. First, let's just try this. Oh, I don't need an API at all. Nice. It has an image. Okay,
Google will
cool.
just give you this?
Yeah, apparently. Cool. Let's do something fun. Go do Rails DB or Rails G migration, add image URL to books. Image URL string. We don't even need to specify that. Cool. Rails DB migrate. Rails C. I'm going, oh wait, we already have that. Let's go ahead over here. Let's try this out. Book.last. The title. Let's go ahead, do this. Book. The last title. Oh, whoops. Great. Let's try this out with a curl request, which is probably the laziest way to do things. Nice. So response equals JSON.parse response. Nice. Look at that. So we did here, just to show you what I did, right? We just passed this URL into the title, right? Doing just a curl request, which is these backticks just say, hey, run this in bash in like in your actual terminal, run whatever this is in bash, and then set whatever it responds to a variable, right? So usually like we would use some sort of like HTTP party or something like that. And we can refactor that, but I want to like go to the most basic version first. So we can go ahead and say JSON equals JSON.parse response, JSON.keys. Cool. So we notice that there's an items hash, which is probably where this is. You can call the first one. And take a look what this has. Let's see if we can pretty print this. Oops. Volume info is what it's under. Cool. One sec. That first, that volume info. The key volume info. Great. Let's go a step deeper. Get the image links. And we don't need a pretty print anymore. Okay. We can make this work, right? I'm gonna go ahead and create a little. We can refactor out of this later. I think we can start by doing it in the model class, right? And we can go ahead and say def get image URL, right? And here we can, it's a lot of things that we just did, right? But go ahead and say this request URL is that. This is probably going to break at some point. We're probably going to need to do some error handling for this, right? But we can go ahead and say before save get image URL. Let's see what happens here. This is something that we haven't shown yet, right? But here I'm going to go ahead and try this again. Book.first.get image URL. Still worked. Small thumbnail. I'm not sure I like that, but I'm going to try this again. See if we can find a better image link. Oh. want a bigger version of the image. That's unfair to me. But here we go. This works. And since this is before save, I don't need to call update here. It's going to go ahead and do the setter method and then automatically save if we're doing a create action. Let's try this out. Cool. So here, we can now go ahead and just try this out and see if we can, first off, when we do it this way, oops. You can always do this. This is a little silly, but I want to keep these separate so we don't end up calling save twice on creation. Let's go ahead, get image URL self.save. Let's see if that works. I'm not sure if I remember how to do this correctly, but we'll see. Nice, we now have an image URL. Cool. So let's go ahead and add this to our show. Let's go say image source equals at book dot image URL alt equals at book dot title. And now we can go back to our show page and see what happens. Okay, well, that's not entirely correct. You can go ahead and find a new one for that, but cool. I didn't hard code this in. Let's double check my, how did I get? Oh, right. Self.title. There we go. Knew I hard coded in. Oops. Something's going wrong. Load. Cool. So now we can try this line of code out because something's clearly going wrong with something. Yeah, it's not going to convert this for me. Probably go ahead and use like something else, or we can do. Bet there's something for this. Says it should not be. Says it's obsolete and should not be used, and then tells us how to do it. All right, let's try it out. There we go. Sorry, I want to see this work. Interesting. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I think that apostrophe is probably killing us, but we'll see. Fine. We need to like definitely use HTTP party or something.
If you saved the entire thing to a variable before you tried to enclose it in that request, would that possibly fix it? Could it convert self-title better?
Like we're talking, turn this whole thing into a. We're talking like. What are we looking for? What do you mean by that? Turn this whole string into a.
Like no above it. I thought the problem was with the URL and it not being able to convert self.title correctly. So what if you did a variable in the line above that to that exact thing and then just passing the variable to URI.encode?
Yeah, I think the one thing that I'm worried about, like we are doing that, right? We're encoding this right here, but self.title has an apostrophe. I think that curl will get more mad at me than.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, let's try this again. Or let's first off, let's try my theory. I'm gonna go ahead and copy this, exit, curl, this bad boy. Maybe I need to. Oh, I think I might need to like actually make this a string. And that might actually just be the issue. Nope. What just happened? Okay, that did work. So I think you actually just need to make this a string. Let's try that out. Ooh. I think we have a secondary now. I mentioned that this probably wouldn't work on all of them. Let's try this. JSON. Ah. Hmm. So this is actually going to be a little clever. We're going to have to find the first book that has a volume and image links. So let's go ahead and say JSON items dot find. Because remember, this is just an array. So we can go ahead and say book out a key of volume info out a key of image. Let's give me the first result that has an image. Cool. Uh-oh. Oh, right. I don't have a first here. Now it's just book. Great. I'm going to actually copy this code. We're just saying, hey, there's going to be a bunch of results for the books. Give me the first one where there's an image. Cool. Does that make sense? Let's try this one out because I think this one will be a little bit more resilient. I should have reloaded. Cool. All right, let's try this now. Oh, there we go. Great. So now if we add a new book, right? The pet cemetery or Stephen King.
I
Interesting.
think we have to redo the strong params and everything.
So the params won't matter here because the params only deal with request information, and this is happening from our model. So our model, like we already trust, like our model methods, we don't have to like vet. What is happening though is I don't have a setter for image URL, which is interesting. Because I can go ahead and I can say I was entirely sure you could do this. Because we can go ahead, right? And we can go ahead and say book.new book equals book.new title test genre test author test yeah, that should work, right? Hold up. Let's just try this out. Let's put bybug right here. Create book. You hit this bybug. Self.image URL. What's self? Equals. Wait, that works. What did I do wrong? Let's go ahead and continue out of this. Oh, it did work. What the heck? I was like, I swore it would work, and then the next time it worked. Let's go ahead and add another one just to test this out. Thriller. James Patterson, Bill Clinton. Remember when this happened? Cool. There we go. It works. This works. Okay. Thought I was going insane. Awesome. So now we have it doing a before action, before save. Just grab this image URL. And if you set, remember, update is how we update things in the database. But since we're just changing an instance before we save it, right? We can just do equals here so that it all gets saved at the same time. Cool. And we might want to like refactor this into a little service class. Go ahead and say like get image URL by title. But for now, I think this is good. Cool. What was the weirdest part of this? A few things, I'm sure, but any part where I really lost you?
Well, I learned that as far as backticks, you got to really be careful about.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons I try not to make myself use that a lot, because it's confusing. I think we might not even need the URI encode anymore, because I think it'll do it by itself. But no reason to get rid of it yet. But yeah, this one. Did you get this thing that I did?
Yeah, I think so I think it was in the JSON data, I believe it was going really fast, but I think that there was probably like multiple keys with the title of that book. So you were going for the first one that actually had an image.
Yeah. So this is an array, so we can call .find on it. Cool. All right, I'm going to stop recording and push this up. Thanks for participating in this. I know it's especially intimidating when I'm asking you questions and it's on recording and you're the only one who can answer it, but I appreciate it. Here